Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Inclusion Matters with Inclusion Pro Wrestling Podcast. Tonight, we welcome Mr. Jimmy Phillips Jr., along with the Godfather, Claudio, our supervising producer, Mr. 15,000, the Hall of Famer, the GOAT, Mr. T-Rex. And then, of course, we've got the crippled Messiah who thinks he's a wrestling god who really doesn't know anything about wrestling at all because he's just blah. And, of course, everybody, I'm the heartbreaker.
Got So, Jimmy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. I am from and still live in Texarkana, Texas. I was a baseball player who grew to love wrestling at a very early age, watching it with my dad, my my grandmother, actually, and went to college on a baseball scholarship. Got to play in 2 College World Series. Got to play with the Philadelphia Phillies, and after I got released, there was another guy here, Bryant Henning, who was wrestling, and talked to him about it. And, he said, yeah, you'd be a good fit. You're a good athlete. You're big, strong. And if you want to get started, just let me know. And so he showed me a few things. And he was wrestling down in Dallas at the Sportatorium at the time. And so I went down there with him and kind of met a few of his friends, and he got me linked up with Iceman King Parsons, and I started training. And I guess this was late '93, started in '94. Went hard and heavy at it for about 3-4 years. Went to Augusta, Georgia. Wrestled for Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was not the ones that we saw on WTBS. It was a smaller promotion, but it was a good promotion. It had Tommy Rich, Ricky Morton was there, Chief Jay Eagle, and a couple other guys that I did not know, but they were good. They were real good in the ring.
Very nice. Mr. Godfather, would you like to have the first question?
I actually just want to take this moment to thank you for taking the time to come on to the show. I really would love to hear more about your time working with the Iceman.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. Iceman, his work and his reputation, he's better than what we hear about him, how good he is in the ring, how smart he is. He's very good in the ring, very good teacher. Helped me a lot. I also trained with Chris Adams for about 6 weeks. There was a thing, we trained with Iceman over in Arlington, Texas, and Chris had a school down at the Sportatorium. And there was a time for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, that the talent switched. His guys went to Iceman, and we went with Chris. And Chris taught me a lot, how to protect myself. He took a liking to me, which really surprised me because Chris did not give up the business at all, hardly. The first time I met him, he wouldn't even look at me, but I think once he saw how hard and how serious I was about it, he did take a liking to me and show me some good stuff. And, people say a lot of things about Chris, but he was a good friend to me. And I miss him.
Well said. Thank you.
Okay. So, Can you tell us like some of the things that carried over from like baseball to pro wrestling? You hear that a lot with football, but you don't hear it as much with like baseball players.
I think the footwork, because I was an infielder, and the footwork came real easy, and that's the footwork is really, really important because you can't jumble your steps, you cannot get in a hurry, and you most definitely can't trip, because then that makes everybody look bad. And I could run a little bit, so I was a little bit quicker for a big guy, and so I think that's what helped me the most.
Got ya.
I actually do have one question.
All right, go ahead.
Because I heard you say you played for the Philadelphia Phillies, right?
Yes.
Now, what years was that, sir?
This was I signed in '88 and I played in '89 and I got hurt again. I had to have my back operated on when I was 21, and I probably came back and played too early. But when you're young and dumb and you just want to get back out there. But I signed in '88, summer of '88, and I got released right before spring training in 1990.
Okay, so my question that I have for you was actually more. Now, let me ask you about, because I know that like WWE has like a celebrity wing of their Hall of Fame. What's your thoughts on Pete Rose?
Pete Rose screwed up, and we had a lot of roving instructors, coaches that played with Pete Rose, and they told us even before the verdict came down that he was guilty. He really screwed up, and then it came down to where he got banned. But my thing is now with Major League Baseball advertising gambling on their games, to me, it's making Major League Baseball look like a hypocrite. If you're going to do that, let the man in. I know he screwed up, and but if you're going to not let the players gamble, in which they shouldn't, then you should not support gambling. You should not be running TV ads just for the money on gambling.
It's a very valid point.
Very valid, yes.
Claudio, do you have another question? Or Tony, do you have a question? Sorry.
I can't think of any. I'm just absolutely privileged for the sake of being in the room with somebody with so many stories of so many people that he's had the privilege of working with in a wonderful and great and promising and dedicated area like Texas.
Yeah.
And like fair, like we were giving our friend Messiah a hard time about not knowing anything about wrestling. That means he knows everything about wrestling. Because if you're carrying a tune about wrestling, you're doing it wrong. It's not supposed to make sense.
Yep.
No, I tell you, I've seen.
And our wonderful guest here, like it's from a territory where wrestling is like football, religion.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm just
Texas wrestling
in the privilege because like.
God, okay.
Yeah, Texas.
Go ahead, sir.
Texas wrestling is different, and it used to be different. If you didn't get in there, wrestle, lay it in, they were not going to get behind you. They were going to go to the popcorn stand or boo you, and they wanted to see some hard-hitting action, and that's what Texas wrestling is all about. That's what high school football is. Especially in the state of Texas. And, people pay their hard-earned money, and you need to give them what they want.
Right.
Very true.
Right.
Okay, so, yeah. All right, so you may think I'm going to be hard on the crippled Messiah, but I do have to do one little bone with the guest first. So comment first, and then my question.
Okay.
And the comment, sir, is why the Phillies? Why not the Braves, man? I mean, the Braves are the team of forever. The Braves are awesome. But anyways, my question, sir, is what is your pre and post match ritual?
I get there early. That's one thing I just have to do. Get my suitcase, get everything lined out. Start with my socks, just like in baseball. Always put on my socks first, then my trunk and knee pads. Then I'd get up, walk around. If there wasn't anybody else that I hadn't introduced myself to, said hello to, then I'd do that. Then I'd start taping up. And the last thing I would do, I would put on my boots. And I would always make sure that I went to the bathroom because I got nervous before a match because I wanted to do good out there. Not because I was scared, it's just because I wanted to do that good. And I wasn't, we all want to make money in it, but I wanted to be respected by my peers more than anything.
Right.
Very true.
So, who were some of your wrestling heroes growing up?
And what about it?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. It was a two-part question. What was his post match?
Post match.
Messiah.
Post match, I would, I would thank my opponent for taking care of me and vice versa. I would ask him if everything went okay. Sit down, take a breather, because if you don't have timing and you're not in shape, you're going to get blown up, and that's not fun. I've been blown up one time, and Iceman did that to me, and he was testing me, which was good because it let me know that I wasn't where I needed to be. And because I could go pretty good, but anyway, getting blown up is not fun. So I would sit down, make sure everything was okay, and just kind of zone out a little bit for about 10, 15 minutes. And then I would start getting undressed and go take a shower and put my clothes back on and just kind of hang out, maybe watch the matches sometimes, maybe not, just cut up with the guys until the show was over.
Very nice. So who were your wrestling heroes growing up?
Terry Funk and Jay Youngblood.
Very good choices.
So I got a question for you. You mentioned Jay Youngblood. What's your thoughts on a guy that I've worked with named Chris Youngblood?
Chris, I don't know Chris. I do know who he is. I just don't know him. Have never met him. Very good, very fast in the ring. Came from a great family. His dad, Ricky Romero, at one time was over more than the Funks were in that territory, in that Abilene, Amarillo territory. And he was, I can remember as a kid going to Abilene, to the Taylor County, Convention Center. And he would throw out little keychains that had sombreros on them. And he was just outstanding in the ring. People just loved him. But going back to Chris, very good in the ring, very knowledgeable. Chris witnessed one of the most horrible things that happened in our business, and that's the killing of Bruiser Brody.
Oh.
He was there in Puerto Rico that night.
Dang. So we know that. Sorry, Tony. Did you have another question?
Go ahead.
We know that like the sportatorium is like famous for like wrestling. Can you tell us some of your memories from there? I know you said you went there, when you first got started. So
When I first went there as a fan, um, it's kind of like, to me, it was kind of like going into Yankee Stadium. You got that awe factor. It just kind of wowed you, because when you start thinking about how many people, famous people, have been in that building, from Elvis Presley, Fritz Von Erich, the Funks, Dick Murdoch, the Sheik, superstar Billy Graham. I can remember I don't even know how old I was, but I wasn't very old. Superstar Billy Graham came on and he refused to wrestle because Channel 11 was not in color. And that got over like gangbusters. And the next week, Channel 11 was in color and he wrestled.
Got ya.
And something else about the sportatorium, you hear how it was a dump and it was this and had big rats in it. Well, all that's true. But I tell you what, I love that place. And it was, if I had to pick between Madison Square Garden and the sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, I would have a rough time choosing. I mean, I just love that place.
Very nice. Claudia, do you have another question? Okay. T-Rex, do you have a question? Okay. Tony, what about you? Do you have a question?
Well, how about his top 5 pegs of all time?
Top 5 what?
Yeah, you cut out there.
Top 5 tag teams.
Top 5 tag teams of all time.
Oh, I think you got to go with the Road Warriors. And number 1, maybe the Assassins. I didn't get to see them very much. The Andersons, Ole and Gene Anderson. I tell you who was really, really good and had a great angle going was Jack and Jerry Briscoe versus Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat.
Yes.
I mean, that, you can get on YouTube and see that whole angle and see how it developed. And man, they had some great matches. Really, really good matches.
Yes, they did.
Sorry about that, but in Shreveport, Louisiana, I can just barely remember this, but Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch were the Texas Outlaws, and they were really good.
Yep.
And in Shreveport, I think it was called Tri-States at the time because I was so young, but the Garvins were there, and Jimmy Garvin had blonde hair, long blonde hair, and he was the manager of Terry Garvin and Ronnie Garvin. And Jimmy Garvin had a ton of heat. But he looked just so different from what, he came out later as, brown hair, curly hair, could wrestle his butt off. And it was just a huge difference. At first I was thinking, no way that's the same guy. And but at the end of Global, the Freebirds were there, and I got to talk to him, and I just asked him. I said, "Man, you the same guy?" And he started laughing, and he said, "You remember that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, that was me. I was 18, 19 years old."
Wow. And even when he dyed his hair, he still had carried that much heat too.
Oh yeah, him and Chris Adams. Well, really, him and David Von Erich were figuring to set the world on fire. Then David had that terrible thing happen in Japan, but they were really getting ready to go gangbusters on everybody in the business.
Right. Can you tell us? You brought up Global One. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Global One is my promotion. I wanted the global because I started in GWF, Global Wrestling Federation, and we do fundraisers for schools and other organizations. That want to have us out there. It's good, hard hitting action. A little bit of comedy because we always have a lot of kids there, and we want to send the fans home happy, and that's what we try to do.
Very nice. So, what advice would you give to a promotion that might be wanting to do like a fundraiser or something like that?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that promoting is not an easy job. Um, Start out 2 months in advance. Take it slow, then start steamrolling at the end as you get going. It cannot be one person. Um, you got to have somebody that can really talk and sell your product because you got to get sponsors. If you don't get sponsors, you're in trouble. Do not run a show unless you have the money. Um, I've been stiff before as a talent, and that's the worst thing that can happen. And that's one thing I always promise myself: I will never book a show unless I can afford the talent. And I've always stood by that, and I've never had to not pay somebody.
Very good advice.
And a lot of people think that just advertising on Facebook will get it done, and that's not true. You still got to get out there and hang those flyers. You got to go to the schools and talk to those kids, give away some free tickets, to the kids. Because normally, if the kid wants to come, then mom and daddy's going to come, or one of them's going to come.
Yep.
So it's
Hello?
it's a lot of hard work.
Gotcha.
But it's very satisfying too, especially if you love the business. If you're doing it just for the money, and like I said earlier, all of us want to make money,
Yes.
but everything's got to go right.
Yes.
Everything's got to go right for you to make money.
Yeah. So, how about your top 5 male wrestlers of all time?
When I started getting older, and it didn't take very long, my favorite and still my favorite, Gino Hernandez, by far. Then Jay Youngblood, Terry Funk, wow, Danny Hodge, and I like Jimmy Valiant before he became the Boogie Woogie Man.
Mm-hmm. Who was also a manager, if I remember right.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
A little while.
Bye.
Yep.
All right. So, in your personal opinion, who's the best wrestler turned actor?
It's got to be The Rock.
Yeah, I would.
He's gotten into movies. He's still doing movies. He's made more money in the movies than anybody else. Everybody still wants him. It doesn't matter what it is. They want The Rock. They want Dwayne Johnson on that movie screen. And so I'm going to have to say him.
It's a very good answer. So, since you came in, like you said, after you got done playing baseball, what's your thoughts on wrestling today? Because it's changed so much since like the territory days.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. The thing I don't like about it you can watch WWE and you can watch AEW. Then you can go to an independent show and you're going to see the same stuff. You're going to see super kicks, clothesline, slaps. And now they've gotten into this thing where they hit each other with the forearm about 20 times in the face or in the side of the face. And, we were always taught, the fans don't have to feel it. All they got to do is see it. So why would you go out there if I'm working with you and you're working with me? Why do I have to feel your pain? Why don't we just sell it? Register that big forearm. And I don't know if you know about a forearm or not, but if you hit somebody in the right spot, especially in the side of the face along that jawline, they're not just going to stand there and look at you and then throw one back at you. No, in real life, that does not happen.
They'd probably be knocked out.
Exactly. Because there's a nerve that runs down that jawline, and if you hit it just right, you're done. And, and a good forearm, there's a time and a place for a good forearm because a good forearm is better than a good punch. I always say that. I always think that because it looks more devastating. That's my opinion.
So while we're on the topic of old school and devastating, I was old school taught too. And so my question for you is do you think I think it's more believable to hit a guy once versus kicking him 20 times with a super kick and overselling. What's your thoughts?
You're exactly right. That's like I was saying, timing earlier. Timing is such a big thing. If you do it right and you give a big kick, you give a big forearm, you give a big power slam, and you get up and you let that guy sell it, and then you get up and you register it with the fans, it is more believable and it gets over better and it lasts longer in the people's mind. They remember that. Who remembers the Young Bucks super kicking somebody 20 times? Well, we all do because they do it every match. And I've got nothing against the Young Bucks. I don't even know those guys. But in my opinion, that's wrong. Slapping your leg. In a street fight, if you go to kick somebody, are you going to slap your leg? If you cannot work a kick better than that, then don't kick anybody. That's my philosophy.
Absolutely agree with you on that.
Yep.
Tony, you got anything? Nate?
So, when you were wrestling, if you had a dream opponent back then, who would it be and why?
If I had to wrestle somebody back then?
Yeah, like what?
If I was a young guy and I was wanting somebody to get me over, it would be Gino Hernandez. Because all you had to do was one thing to him and he would sell it and he would start getting that chicken shit heat. He would start backing off. And, but then again, another good one was Michael Hayes.
Yep.
Michael Hayes is so smart. It's not even funny. And, but I'm still going to go with Gino Hernandez.
Very nice. T-Rex, you got anything?
Actually, this has got an old school feel, so I kind of like this. So here's another old school question for you I have. And are you a guy that believes in proper etiquette and proper respect before you get into our ring? Are you a guy that's in favor of wiping your feet and shaking your hands?
Every time. Everybody's hand. Absolutely. I still believe in putting up the ring, taking down the ring. That's one thing that these guys miss. And, going back to what I said, about my biggest thing was my peers respecting me and wanting to work with me. I always put up the ring and I always took down the ring, especially if I drove by myself. Now, if I was riding with Iceman, I would help put up the ring. But when the show was over, he's ready to go. He wasn't going to wait around on me to help take down the ring. And, and he earned that. But I wanted to make sure that I earned that. Wiping your feet off, I don't know why guys won't do it. It takes 2 seconds. Getting in the ring the right way. Some guys just get in there. Well, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to get in the ring. And just simple stuff like that. And yes, wiping your boots off, shaking everybody's hand, thanking them after the match. Yes, sir.
Love that answer.
And going back to Global Wrestling Federation, I was very, very lucky because James Beard, the referee, who's been all over the world, helped me a lot.
I know, James.
Chris Adams helped me a lot. Iceman, of course. Jimmy Jam Garvin. I didn't talk to him very much, but when I did talk to him, I shut up and I let him talk and I listened and I soaked it in like a sponge. JBL was there. Ahmed Johnson, Tony Norris, he was there. My best friend in the business, best friend overall, George Brister, the witch doctor Baboose, he was there. And, and he was real good about getting people over. Chaz Taylor was there. Oh, man. Killer Brooks, Skandar Akbar. So I was lucky, that I got to watch these guys kind of help me out. If I did, hey, why don't you do this? This right here look good, but if you slow it down, it's going to mean more. Next time you're out there, try it this way. So I was lucky.
Right. So what's the craziest match you've ever seen?
Craziest match?
Yeah.
In person or just overall?
In person.
A chain match between the lawman Don Slatton and Hank James and Dory Funk Sr. Hank James had a manager named JoJo. Well, JoJo jumps in for the finish. Then here comes Dory Funk Sr. And he just cleaned house. But that Texas chain match might have been one of the craziest I've seen because they went all over the place.
Very nice.
And I tell you another one in Abilene, Jerry Briscoe, who the Texans hated, was going against Jerry Kozak. And the match was going good. Well, all of a sudden, there's one lady. She's got a sign that says, "I love Jerry Kozak." Well, then on the other side, there's a lady that has a sign that says, "I love Jerry Briscoe." Well, they meet up on the outside of the ring, right behind the ringside seats, and they start going at it. And I'm talking about they are getting it. Pulling hair, clothes, fist. I mean, this was not a cat fight. They were getting it. Well, they turned the house lights on, and both Jerrys, Kozak and Briscoe, they stopped and they watched. And this went on, a good 2 or 3 minutes, because if you're really fighting, you're going to be tired in about 2 to 3 minutes. You're blown up in a real fight.
Yeah.
And then after they got through doing their thing, security came down and got them, and they turned the house lights back down, and they went ahead and finished the match. And, I asked Jerry Briscoe one time about that. He goes, "I do remember that," and he told me that it was not a work. He didn't know those girls. He didn't know what was going on, but as far as he knew, it was not a work.
Wow. Mr. Heartbreaker, you got a question?
Did you do the manager question yet? Top 5 managers?
Nope.
Okay, top 5 managers of all time.
I didn't get along with him real good, but you got to give Skandar Akbar his due. Very good out there on the mic. Very good psychology. Great timing. Gary Hart, Bobby the Brain Heenan. You know, especially when Bobby the Brain had the mic. I think that set him above everybody. But as far as being down there in the rings, maybe Skandar Akbar. Let's see, Gary Hart, Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette in this area got tons of heat. I mean, they were ready to whip his ass. Sorry if I can't cuss, but
No, you can't. You're good.
Yeah, you're good, my
they
friend.
were ready to. I'm talking about kids, daddies, mamas, everybody. He had a ton of heat down here in Texas. Texarkana is a twin city. There's Texarkana, Texas, and there's Texarkana, Arkansas. Well,
right.
An hour south is Shreveport, Louisiana, where they did the TV tapings for Mid-South.
Oh.
So we got all of that in a close area. But, oh, man, when Akbar and Jimmy Cornette would come, they hated him. I mean, absolutely hated him. And, you know, I don't particularly care for him, but Paul Heyman, you know, you got to give him his due.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question because I actually heard you mention one of my mentors earlier, and I've gotten to work with him throughout the years. And he actually came to Portland and did a seminar, and this is how I met him. And then I worked with him at Cauliflower Alley Club in Las Vegas. Chaz Taylor.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you. How many times have you wrestled him over the years? Have you ever wrestled him, or have you just been in locker rooms with him?
No, I've wrestled Chad probably. Me and Chaz have probably hooked up about maybe 5 or 6 times. Very good in the ring, smooth. Gets excited a little bit, you know. You just got to slow him down and calm him down. But he's good. He's good in the ring. You know, and I'm gonna tell you something. It's a shame that his daddy passed away, you know, and with diabetes, because Tug Taylor was a awesome individual. I'm talking about a very, very good man. Very, very good man.
I definitely never met Tug, but the one thing I always heard Chaz talk about was his dad. So,
you talking about super. I mean, he would go out of his way just to help you, any little thing, you know, to help you so your match would be better, you know, and you know, and he didn't have to do that. He was in the same boat as the rest of us, you know, because Iceman was over. Chris Adams, they had a thing going, so both of them were over. The Birds were coming back. So he was still fighting for that big spot too. You know, he didn't have to go out of his way to help me, but he did. And he was very, extremely nice gentleman.
Very cool. So this is going to be a new question. So you have worked with some of the biggest names, from Iceman to Chris Adams. So when you watch wrestling today, who do you think's going to be like the next like megastar?
Well, I think the guy that's got a chance that they'd turn him loose is LA Knight, Rob Conway. You know,
yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about how it's taken him 20 years. Well, here's my thing. Maybe it did take him 20 years. But maybe, just maybe, the promotion made a mistake in not giving that boy a chance. I mean, it works both ways. And if you don't believe politics is not in wrestling, you're crazy. So who's to say somebody wasn't in the background burying him? All those things happen. You know, that's the ugly side of wrestling. It's not always who the best guy is that gets the biggest break. And I'll tell you another guy I should have mentioned earlier is Rod Price. I don't know if you know Rod Price or not, but another super guy. He would help you. If he asked you, he'd tell you. And to me, he never got a break that he should have. And, people want to talk about, well, he couldn't talk. Well, so what? There's been Abdullah the Butcher and the Sheik didn't talk either.
No, they didn't.
But Rod Price could do anything in that ring. I mean, anything. If you needed him to put somebody over, especially a good baby face that was new, he could do it and make that guy look like $1 million and still keep his heat. That's where the worker comes in. That's where the psychology comes in, is if you can put somebody over, but you maintain your heat. You put somebody over, but you still can shine at the end as a baby face. And not everybody can do it. And there's a lot of guys on TV that can't do it.
Absolutely. And to follow up on what you just said, sometimes it's better for the wrestler if they can't say anything, because it builds the mystique of the character that they are. Like, if you looked it up, go ahead.
Well, that's one thing I was going to say. I wish they would bring back managers, and I know Vince McMahon doesn't like them, and that's fine. It's his deal. But ever since wrestling was invented, there's always been a manager somewhere. And it just adds to the flavor. And you can go so many directions with that. You can put a baby face in there and he gets that heel for 19 and a half minutes. Then all of a sudden, that manager causes him to slip on a banana peel and the heel gets a 1, 2, 3. Well, what do they remember? 2 things: the manager and the heel winning.
Yep.
And so that's just my opinion. You can just go so many different ways.
Absolutely.
Somebody else that was in Global that I didn't mention, and I should have, was Maniac Mike Davis. Yeah, another smart guy. I mean, he just made everything simple in his matches. He could do anything in that ring. And, it's a shame he had to go too early too, because he was just fun to be around. He was just a special guy as far as wrestling goes. Gorgeous Gary Young was there.
Wow, you had some big name guys.
Another super guy, and I was lucky, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I was very, very lucky that I got to work early on with a bunch of good guys.
So T-Rex, you got a question?
Actually, I do. Because I kind of like you, Jimmy Phillips. I'm not gonna lie, like this old school thing. My question to you is, in the Northwest, I don't know like how much you got to work with this guy. Maybe you have, because I know he's been down there in the day. But Hacksaw Brett Sawyer.
No, I don't know him. Now Buzz Sawyer come through Mid-South, and you want to talk about a tough dude. When I was talking about the fans, and Cornette and Akbar getting heat. Well, Mad Dog, Buzz Sawyer, he could get some heat, but when he left, nobody messed with him. Brett Sawyer, I just know him of what I've seen on TV and on YouTube. Small guy, but he could do what he could do best. He accentuated that to make himself look good and get over. And that's smart. That's smart.
All right, Mr. Heartbreaker, you have a question?
So who's one of the biggest names you've wrestled?
recent that people would know, the common person that, or the common wrestling fan now, JBL.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. That's what was it like to wrestle JBL? I mean,
Tough,
he is one of the best. So
tough. He laid it in, and I was lucky because he knew that I knew how to work. And when he threw that big lariat on me, he hit me in the chest first, his chest to my chest first. But I've seen him take some guys almost take their head off. And he did. Now, I like John, but the truth is the truth. He did take some liberties with some young guys that I thought were unnecessary, but it's like any other kind of bully. If you let them do it, they're going to keep doing it. And if you don't stop them, and that's not saying getting in the back and whoop their ass, because you might not be able to, but the guy's going to know you're there, and he didn't appreciate it. I mean, you got to stand up for yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just the way he was. And but I'm gonna tell you, that sucker is very, very smart with numbers, money. And he's always been like that. He's talk about banking in the back of the sportatorium. He would talk about investments then. So, that's a shoot. When they start talking about him knowing how to make money and knowing this, knowing that, that's a shoot.
So, what was it like working with Ahmed Johnson? Because I know towards the end of his career, like when he was in WCW, he kind of took a turn downward. But there for a while, he was hot as anybody. So,
oh yeah, even when he was in Global, he was hot. I mean, he was getting the show over there for a while, pretty much just by himself. And he was easy with me. Me and him got to be really good friends. After the first night, again, I got lucky. I let him call everything in the ring, everything he did. I just took it. And anyway, he went up to the promoter. He said, next time I want to work with Jimmy. I don't want to work with anybody else. And so he said, but next time I want him under a hood because I don't want to bury him. And so that's what we did. Again, he took care of me. I put him over and clean and as well as I could have. And then the next time he said, Jim, I'm going to throw you a bone. Don't ruin it. And I'm like, okay. He said, when we start, I'm going to turn my back, hit me in the back, roll me up, 1, 2, and I'm going to kick out. And then the match is mine. Okay, boss, let's go. And so that's what we did. And me just getting that 1, 2 count on him on TV. And it was at the very beginning of the match. But people remember that because nobody had ever gotten a 2 count on Moadib. He was at Moadib then. And but that helped me. He helped me. And I had no idea that he was going to do that. It's a shame what happened. There's conflicting stories about what happened with him in WWF. I've never asked him because I know that that's still a sore subject, so I don't go there. But man, he big as a house. When he was on, he was worth $1 million, in my opinion.
Yep. All right, T-Rex, you have a question?
Well, I always have a question, but I actually wanted to ask our guest something since I'm a supervising producer. Do you mind going a little longer? Because I kind of like this. And do you guys care?
No,
I'm
that's
good.
fine. We can.
Okay, because here's my thing. If you don't mind going, I would love to do this for another like 15, at least 20 more minutes. Because here's my question to you, and I pose this. The two gentlemen that are above me up here have just recently started a promotion called Inclusion Pro Wrestling. My question to you is advice you can give them on being new and using the right talent and stuff like that. What would your suggestion be to them?
Woo. Well, like I said, make sure you got the money because you don't want any hiccups. You don't want to be spending money at the very last second saying, "Oh, I forgot to do this," and make sure you got your posters, your tickets, your sponsors way in advance before the show. Get those posters up and out. And you can wait a little bit on the posters because you want to get those sponsors on the poster if you can. And once they see that, it'll help you. Go around, scout the best talent, watch the people to see who they like. Not necessarily what you like, what the people like. And they're high, but I suggest getting 2 midgets because they draw.
Yes, they do.
And if you can find one pretty girl, it doesn't matter what the other one looks like, but you get you one that can shine that poster up good, those guys will come see her. And
that's actually the truth.
Yep. And have you a good tag team? If you can, and this is getting harder as we go, don't get guys that look like they work or push buggies at the local Walmart. Get guys that the fans are going to believe in. Keep them in the back. You go out, this is my opinion. Baby faces go out and sign autographs at intermission. Heels should not. Heels get heat. Babyface shine. Babyface sells. And, tell your heels, don't be afraid to get heat. If you think you're going to cross the line, stop. Your mind will tell you when you're about to go too far. But don't think about it, just go. Get heat. And don't be afraid to get heat. And don't get on the mic and cuss. That right there will hurt you more than anything. Because you got kids out there. Then all of a sudden they go home, they're saying the F word, shit, damn, hell, and all that. And, well, where'd you get that? Well, I heard it at wrestling. Those guys were saying it. Don't let them cuss on the mic. And if they can't talk on the mic, don't put them on the mic, And not everybody has to have mic time. Don't ruin your show by having everybody talk on the mic. That's my opinion.
It's a good opinion. And thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate that advice. I can say we appreciate that advice.
And make sure you have a good ring. Make sure you have a good ring.
Very important. I agree.
Yes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also it's good to have good partners, right? Because like you said earlier, you can't do this by yourself. So
you got to have somebody that's, I tell you, I've lost some friends over wrestling. And because they didn't want to work. I had one partner at one time, he thought you could just advertise on Facebook and I'm like, no, we've got to go sell tickets. We've got to go get sponsors. We got to hang out those posters. Well, he didn't even want to drive 20 miles to sell 200, and the tickets were already paid for. They were already paid for. He would not drive 20 miles to go get $220. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm taking that trip every time for $220 worth of tickets.
Damn straight.
Absolutely.
But we're no longer friends, and it's because of the wrestling business. But it's hard to do business with friends. That statement right there is true, but it's but you really do need somebody else to help you, because it's just a lot of work, especially if you have another job. You're working 9 to 5, and then you're trying to sell tickets and you're trying to hang up posters and sell tickets, advance tickets. I mean, it's tough. It is tough.
Again, I truly appreciate that advice, and I will take that to heart when we start putting ours together.
Where are you guys located?
Washington State.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The
Yeah.
Great White North. Yeah.
And be sure to get the concessions if you can.
Got you.
And don't cheapen your prices. Convenience, people need to pay for that convenience. I don't know about the Mariners, but if you go to a Texas Ranger game, you get a bottle of water, it's $7. Now I'm not saying you charge $7, but don't do it for $1.
Right.
I'd go $3, maybe $2, whatever, but you got to have a return. I always try to make money so I can run the next show. I'm always trying to build to that next show. Sometimes I've been able to, and sometimes I couldn't, and I go back to saving money. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to pay your talent. You got to pay the talent. But yes, most definitely try to get those concessions if you can.
Absolutely. And by the way, the Mariners are the same about prices at the ballpark that the Rangers are. But
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's like $8 for a hot dog that you can probably buy at the store for like. So, T-Rex, do you have a question?
No, I was actually. Does Heartbreaker have one? Then I'd go if he doesn't.
Okay, go ahead. Heartbreaker, you got one?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for your time and everything tonight. So where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook, Jimmy Phillips Jr. And Snapchat. I don't do Instagram, or I don't do Twitter. I don't understand Twitter. I don't care for it. And a lot of my friends do, but I just can't get into it. Snapchat's okay. Instagram, I don't get into that. But Facebook mainly, Jimmy Phillips Jr.
I got one. I do have one more thing. We are all three of us here are involved in this promotion. And I would love to, if you've never been out here, I would love to invite you to come out and work for us. I'm their booker.
Well, I don't work anymore because I had to have my neck fused.
But what about anything you'd like, sir? Creative, manage, whatever. We would love to have whatever.
I take that back. We played in the College World Series in Lewiston, Idaho, and I did get to go over to Walla Walla, Washington.
Okay.
But that's as far as I've been. But I do have a couple of friends that live up there. One lives just north of Seattle, and he was in the Navy, and he was a big baseball player, played for the Baltimore Orioles and St. Louis Cardinals. And then he went into the Navy, and he was an officer in the Navy. But he lives up there now, and he just loves it. He said, I'll never come back to Texas. I love it up here. But yes, I would love to come. Be sure and let me know when you guys are running. I would love to.
Absolutely. And if you would like to, Heartbreaker, you can close us out. But this has been fantastic. We'd love to have you back on the air here too.
Anytime. Absolutely. I sure do appreciate you guys asking me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Absolutely.
Do your thing.
And as they said before, you're welcome to come back at any time. You're welcome at the promotion anytime. But for the meantime, for myself, for the Mr. 15,000, the GOAT, the one, the only, the Hall of Famer, T-Rex, and for the not so bland, but still talks like paint's drying, the crippled Messiah. We'll see you guys next time.